and a huge welcome to the Entrepreneurs Circus, where we don't just talk business, we talk about the real, messy, chaotic life behind the scenes. I'm your host, Charlotte Wibberley, ready to dive headfirst into the sea of highs, lows, and everything in between that comes with being a parent running a business while also wrestling with the other curveballs that life throws our way. So grab yourself a cuppa, or better yet, pour yourself a gin. It's time to gear up for raw, unfiltered chats with fellow business owners navigating the high wire of being a CEO, the juggling act of parenting, and the merry mess that accompanies it all. This is entrepreneurship in its glorious chaos. Hello guys, and welcome back to the Entrepreneurs Circus, where we talk about all the things, the highs, the lows, the juggling act around being a business owner, a human being, a parent, basically someone juggling the ongoing challenges of life. I am joined today by a really fabulous guest. I've got the amazing Katrina from Carrier Creative here, and she and I possibly got on our soapboxes over Instagram the other week talking about some of the things going on in the service provider industry. And we thought, you know what, if we're going to get on our soapboxes, we might as well do it in an arena where we could share and talk about it with you guys. So we're going to get juicy and we're going to talk about all that sort of stuff. But for now, Katrina, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's all lovely to have you here. Do you just want to tell the guys that are listening, if they don't know you, who you are and what you do?
Yes, so I'm Katrina. My business is Carrier Creative. I design WordPress websites. I've been doing this for 10 years. I celebrated 10 years in June, and it
Amazing.
literally feels like only yesterday that I started. And I definitely don't feel old enough to have been in business for 10 years, but here we are. I specialize in accessible WordPress websites, so trying to make things accessible for as many people as possible online. And implementing a website strategy as well, which lots of people seem to overlook as well. So yeah, so that's my business.
Hang on, there's a strategy behind your website?
Apparently so.
Oh my God. I think I really want to hear more about that as well, because I feel like, so many of us, when we start in business, like you're saying, 10 years in business, it's been 12 for me. Like we were just told you need a website, right? You need to put something up to have this like online presence. But I mean, strategy? So how do you approach that with your clients?
I think it's actually just saying the words, you need a website strategy, and they have a they sort of go, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, and you're right. Like even I think like nothing has really changed in 10 years in that respect. Of 10 years ago, it was like, you need a website. Like every business needs a website. It's your online storefront. You need to have an online presence, and nothing seems to have changed in the terms of like when people talk about websites, they sort of say that you need a website, but they don't actually tell you what it needs to do and how it's going to do it, and that actually you need to do the work to actually make it work. It's not one of those things of kind of like, oh, you have a website designed and it's like a magic thing and everything's going to happen. Like you do need a strategy. And I think also it's important to know that every business will have a slightly different strategy. There isn't like a one size fits all either. It's going to be dependent on your business, what it is that you want to achieve, what it is that, your industry. So it's really important to have that conversation with whoever it is that you're working with, or if you're doing it yourself, is to potentially get some advice, or to kind of really think about what it is that you want to do with your website and how you're going to achieve it, and like the steps you're going to take to get there. And there's so many different things that you can do. Some of it is not particularly fun, which I would admit, like websites are not sexy, they're not fun, they're not, it's not social media. Not that that's always particularly fun.
I know. There's a non-sexy side to that too.
Yeah, there's definitely a non-sexy side to that too. But I do think that long term there is such a lot to gain from websites, and that's kind of one of the things that I like to talk to my clients about, is actually like bear with it, like just like keep at it and you will get there, but you do need to do the work, and you do need to think about a strategy behind it as well.
Yeah, so important. It's just like sitting there listening to you talking. I was thinking about the first website I ever had built for me, and I invested a lot of money getting a website built. I think the first one I built for myself was like a Dreamweaver one, and then I got one built. Do you remember Dreamweaver?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm embarrassed to say it now. Everybody knows. But then I had one built by a designer, cost me a few £1,000s. But the thing that I hadn't thought about, or maybe I didn't even know about at the beginning, was like, well, how to get people to see it.
Yeah,
But I had this website, and suddenly I was like, well, why aren't I fully booked?
yeah. I know that's the thing. It's kind of like, I think there's this misconception that having a website is like an automatic rite of passage to Google, and it's just like, it's really not. It's like, do you know how many websites are out there and how much like you're gonna have to fight to be seen? So yeah, it's just kind of like, that's like having a website designed is like the first step, and then the next step is the strategy, which can be it can be fun to do, and I when people do get involved with it does become quite addictive because they see things happening and they see changes, especially if they look at their stats and their data and things like that. The not like the boring stuff actually turns into exciting stuff, but it just takes a bit of getting used to and a bit of time.
Yeah, you're preaching to the converted.
Yeah.
I spend my days talking about data for people's funnels and things, and they're all, you can literally see people switching off as I'm talking about stats. And I
I know.
guess it must be the same for you.
It's kind of like you talk about it and they're like, yeah, and I'm like, okay, but the stat when you start seeing the sales, that's when you're like, oh, okay, now I need to listen to this part.
It's like, even if you put it in a visual, I'm like, but this is really exciting because this literally shows you what's working and what's not. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Oh, it's a constant challenge. I feel like it. But you're right. I think there is still sometimes that misconception that you sling something out there and suddenly it's going to get you results without really thinking about the sort of traffic strategy
Yeah,
beyond it, be that like a website or when people are putting funnels and stuff out there. I just feel
yeah.
like people forget that actually you do have to fight in this online arena to be
Mm.
seen.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think there's been a lot of I don't know, maybe it was around COVID time where lots of people started businesses and the online space it was busy, but it just meant that people were able to get traffic easier. People were online a lot more, people were on social media a lot more, people were Googling a lot more, and it felt like an easy thing or easier thing. And then obviously it seems so much harder pre-COVID as well, because things have changed, people's mindsets have changed, people's views have changed, and behaviors have changed. And I just think that people are really struggling and things aren't going how they thought it was going to go, that they've had this success in the past and now they're not either making as much money or launches aren't going as well. Um, and the problem is that I think there was a lot of messaging before to say, either you don't need a website, you don't need this, you don't need that, you just need a social media page because that's where everybody was at the time. And now it's like, actually, you need a whole, like, I call it like a web, like everything has to be connected together for everything to work. And if like what something is not there, you're not going to have this full web to be able to kind of to make everything work. And I think this is what's missing at the moment. So I do think there's been a bit of damage from messaging from some people putting things out there that weren't necessarily true or worthwhile in the long run. And I think people are suffering the consequences of it now.
That's so true. I feel like, there was so much advice for, the people that during COVID suddenly thought, shit, I need to turn my business into an online business,
Yeah,
or I haven't got a business, I'm an employee and I want to start a business.
yeah,
Loads of that advice out there that's like, you don't need a website. You can
mm,
just put a Facebook page up and it's all okay. And maybe that was true at the
yeah,
time, but now it needs so much more. And it feel like well, we know from our own buying behaviors, right? If you're going to sign up and do something with someone, you generally, like, stalk is an extreme word, but you're looking at their
yeah,
website, you're looking at their socials, you're looking at things to get a feel
yeah.
of what they're like and the results they get. So I guess, does it stand true that the more that you have in terms of online presences in multiple places, really reasserting that authority, that the more likely you are to sort of convert, I
I
guess?
think so. I think so. I think, again, it comes down to the strategy of who is it that you're trying to attract?
Yeah.
I know, you know, Gen Zs are very much using social media as search engines, but even that is dropping now as well. Like data showing that the use of social media for search engine is dropping. Google is always still going up. But if you're still trying to attract millennials and Gen Xers, you know, we're all over we're all over Google, and it's just kind of like, I don't use TikTok for a search engine because I can never find what it is that I want on it. I've tried it and I'm like, what? No,
What is
no,
this?
I'm not getting what I want. I fall down too many rabbit holes and I'm distracted enough as it is. I don't need anything else. So it's just kind of like you just, this is like where the strategy comes in. It's like you need to know who it is that you're targeting and where they are and what it is that they're using. Like I wouldn't go to TikTok if I wanted to work with somebody. I wouldn't go to TikTok, but I would go to like Instagram, and I would go to Google, and potentially YouTube if you know, if it serves a purpose to be on YouTube.
Yes.
But you know, it's like, this is what I say, like you've got to think about your own strategy, and what works for one person might not work for you. Even if you're in the same industry, it doesn't necessarily always have to be the same, and you can't look at like big brands as well, because what they do is very different to what you need to do. So it's all kind of, it's all very circumstantial, like what you need to do.
Yeah, and I love your sort of take on it, that it's all part of this bigger web of all
Yeah.
the kind of assets, or for me that ends up coming across as, when I'm talking with my clients about the different ways that they need to market, be it that on their socials or their email list, or they need to be doing podcasts or all these other things to gain that visibility, to then be able to sort of convert clients, build their audience. So that makes
Yeah.
complete sense. Are you seeing that people are kind of hopping back on the web bandwagon? Are people investing more in websites at the moment? What's the
Yeah,
industry?
I think they are, I think they're not necessarily jumping straight into the investment of websites, but I have done a lot of talking to people recently. I've been doing a lot of market research, and I have been talking to people. And what I am noticing is that people have this realization that websites are important. They realize that SEO is important, but they're not convinced that
Mhm.
it can work for them. And there's not enough evidence of of how it can work for them. And I think, again, that comes back to like this messaging before of like, you don't need it, it's fine, like nobody's, everybody's on social media, you know, like I see like the messaging shifted from, you just need to be on social media, to like, you need to grow an email list. And that's also important, and it's, but you're still like, we're still, I feel like we still need a lot of work to get to the point of saying, actually it's not just social media and just an email list. There's like a whole, like I said, like a whole web of things that need to happen. And once we kind of get to that point, and that messaging, then I think that's when we'll see an uptake in everything to do with marketing, online marketing. um but I think also, as well, for me, I think I find that the issue is trust as well, particularly with websites and SEO. There's so there's so many like spam emails we get. Oh, I can get you to like the first page of Google. I can get you to number one of Google. I can get you to this. I can get you to that. All of this like spam emails of saying, "Oh, I've done an audit on your website," and I get them, and I'm just like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, you're sending it to the wrong person here. But then also as well, I get it on LinkedIn, and I'm just like, don't read my profile at all.
Oh, does my head in, honestly. Just take the time to read the profile,
I
mate.
know, I know, and I'm just like, it's like, oh, I've looked at your profile, it's really great. We can help you like with your website, and there's so many improvements to make. And I'm like, did you really look at my website? Because like my website literally says WordPress website designer. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think it's getting there, and I think more people are interested in website design and
Yes.
SEO and wanting to do it, but they're still reluctant to kind of fully invest in it. And I think that's just kind of, it could be like economics, it could be, but I also think there's like a huge trust issue when it comes to websites. I really do think websites just get a bit of a bad rep
I
as
think,
well,
yeah.
because there's so many like dodgy people out there.
Oh my God. No, I understand what you're saying and I get what you're saying. It's I think in the online industry there's a lot of
Yeah,
pretenders. Yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot of shit going on, and I feel like there's a lot of people making false claims. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in all kinds of arenas. But yeah, I think I agree with you with web stuff, and actually I see it like on SEO. I'll
yeah,
get clients that come to me and it's like, oh, I've hired somebody to do my SEO and it's not worked. And I'll
yeah,
say, well, when was that? Last week. Okay. I think they don't understand that some of these
yeah.
things, all of these things take time as well. But yeah, the kind of clowns in the industry don't help those of us that have been, established for a long time and
Yeah.
are genuinely like helping our clients.
I know. This is the thing. It's kind of like some people get really shocked at how long it's going to take. Like I always say, I can never guarantee you being like number one on Google. Like nobody can ever guarantee that. And anyone who does, like, that's when you should run from them.
Yes,
Like
yes.
you can't guarantee it. And I also can't guarantee how long it's going to take because algorithm changes, even just like things that are happening in the world will have like a huge shift on everything.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you have to change like this, like you can plan a strategy for like the next 3 to 6 months, and then halfway through something happens and you've got to change that strategy, and that can either mean that your website moves faster than anticipated, and sometimes it can set you back another 3 months. So it's really difficult, and I think I've had clients who I've worked locally where they have got to the first page of Google, they've been top of Google, because we've worked on it, and but that's a very local thing. But if I tried to do it on a national scale, it would be so much harder. So it's and it kind of always comes back to the strategy and kind of being very unique to you and your situation and your business. But yeah, there's I have a lot of clients who that come to me and say, "Oh, I've had somebody work on my website," and I'm like, I can tell because it's a mess. And it's just
Well,
like, yeah, it's just like there's things everywhere. There's so many but like the back end of websites. Sometimes I sit there and I just think, how have you got to this situation?
God, I
But
bet you.
then like they don't you don't know what you don't know. Like if websites aren't your thing and nobody's explaining to you what it is that they're doing, and they just go and do it, so, oh, there you go, I fixed it. And it might be it's more often than not it's a plaster rather than a fix. And then you get
Yeah.
more later on.
Well, I'm going to come and circle back to that in a minute about expertise and working with experts. But I'm really interested to know when it comes to websites, this is the question that I've got. So I see a lot in the launch and funnel and evergreen industry that people are really leaning towards building their pages, sometimes their entire websites, in all-in-one systems. So I'd love to know what your opinion is about all-in-one systems. And I'm so sorry for giving you that question, but I think, to me, there's a risk in it. And I think that this all came about all in one, suddenly became sexy and famous around COVID when people were building their own businesses from scratch. And it feels like now everyone seems to lean towards building an all-in-one system. So
Yeah, I'm not a fan. And that's not me, obviously I'm WordPress. I, live for WordPress and I will always recommend WordPress. However, I would rather see somebody have a website in Squarespace. I will never recommend Wix, but I'll go with
is there
Squarespace.
anyone that recommends Wix?
Oh, you'll be surprised. I would rather see somebody's website in Squarespace or Shopify and have, things like funnels and things like that elsewhere. And like you say, it is it's that phrase of putting all your eggs in one basket, because if you have like, I know people use things like Kartra to build out websites and things like that, and Kajabi, and they are really great. Like I do think that they have a place in people's businesses, but when it comes to websites, I really don't think you should be relying on them, because I've seen too many people go, oh, Kartra's down, Kajabi's down, there's an issue with this, there's an issue with that, and that just means that your whole online presence goes down as well. And then you're just left with social media, which we all know is the least reliable thing online anyway. And so that means that if you're promoting something on social media, where are you driving it to? Because if Kartra's down or anything like that is down, then your website's down and you've got nowhere to send people to. And also as well, like why I like WordPress as well is because if there is an issue with WordPress, because it's what you call self-hosted, which means that you buy hosting. For my clients, like I suppose I'm a little bit different to some website designers. Like I have a husband who has an IT company. He does like all like the tech, like the big tech stuff behind the scenes, all the hosting and stuff like that. So if we ever have an issue, he has like many servers everywhere. So if one goes down, we can easily move the website to somewhere that's working. If it's going to take a long time and your website's back up and running, you can't do that in an all-in-one system. You can't. You're relying on a big company who doesn't care about your business because they've got your money already. And what are you going to do? Like, you're not going to go and start building a whole new website because your website's down for a week. You're going to sit and wait, and they're not going to give you any money because their terms and conditions say that they don't guarantee 100% uptime. So that's it. But you know, when you have that control, like it's that lack of control that you have with these all-in-one systems, and I don't like that. And I think if you're running a business, you should have control of as many things as you possibly can. And I don't think those all-in-one systems provide that. And there's not enough flexibility in the design either, so I don't like them from that sense either.
Yeah, it's this is my feeling as well. So we work a lot, as my agency works a lot, particularly with Kajabi. But, you know, I had this horror story when I was out on a retreat once in Malta, and there was a lady that was with me that was launching at the time, and her entire business, so everything was on Kartra. So her email list, all of her checkouts, all of her pages and everything. And mid-launch, Kartra went down. I think it was 3 days it was down for. Her launch was completely derailed. And at the time, I just sat there and thought, like, that is your entire business. It's reputational.
Yeah,
Everything's in one place. But the other thing for me with an all-in-one is that it's a jack of all trades. So
yeah,
it's not good at any one thing. It's good at things, but it's
yeah,
not brilliant at
no,
any thing. So, you know, with your email marketing system, it's never going to be the best email marketing system for segmentation. The checkouts aren't, you know, brilliant. So everything's almost trying to be sort of squished together and do an okay job. Whereas, you know, for me as a funnel builder, I want to make sure that all of those things are really optimized. And I guess like the same for you with a website, you want to make
yeah,
sure that all those things are the best that they can possibly be.
yeah. And I think, like you said, it's trying to be, it can only be good. And like as a business owner, you need more than good. Like you know, it shouldn't just be, you know, passable for what it is that you need. And I think also as well, as businesses grow, and they meet certain, you know, goals and things like that in their business, they outgrow them and they get frustrated because it doesn't do what it needs to do. How do I get it to do this? And you spend so much time trying to figure it out, and you spend so much money upgrading plans and things like that to find out it's never going to do what you want it to do. And then you have to move a whole system, and that's more time and more money and more frustration. And it's just kind of like, my motto is kind of like, when you're planning something like this, think about the future, not just like the now, and think about where you want your business to go, and is this going to serve you in the future as well. And if it does, then great, like stick with it. But if it's not, then maybe keep looking to see before you commit to something, because in the long run, you don't want to have extra money, extra time when you really won't have the time to do it if your business is growing and scaling.
Yeah, you're right. Getting it wrong is costly in all
Yeah.
kinds of ways. So
Mm.
if you don't have something that's sort of scalable as you grow,
Yeah.
then it's going to be, you know, ball ache down the line.
Yeah.
So coming back to what you were talking about earlier in terms of like sometimes you inherit these websites and they're maybe not as good as they could be. And I also echo that because I sometimes inherit funnels and think, what the
Yeah.
hell? Yeah. Um, we were talking, weren't we, on Instagram about being a service provider, and you know, as experts that have been in these fields, in our own fields for the last 10 to 12 years, I think, you know, sometimes it can be really hard when there's other people that enter the market and perhaps don't have the same work ethic or don't have the same experience and end up, you know, let's not beat around the bush, messing things up for clients. And it
Yeah.
kind of gives that that bad rep for service providers. I mean, do you find that as a service provider, you have horror stories to tell? Have you, certainly I feel like sometimes I've been asked to do things for free. Often clients come to me with a fear or a bad experience. They lead that discovery call with,
Yeah.
well, I've worked with this person that did this really terrible thing. And you're like, oh, yeah, no, no, again, again,
Yeah.
again. Like, does that marry true with you as well?
Yes, I mean, I would say 90% of all my discovery calls are like there is a horror story behind it, that either they've had somebody to design their website for them and they've either built them and then the website has just disappeared and they don't know how to change it. I mean,
Mm.
and that is, but the worst ones that I've had have been that they've had a website built and they can't access anything. They can't access their website, they can't access their
I've seen
domain,
that too.
they
Awful.
can't. And it's so, I get so angry at the website designers, and I'm just thinking, what are you doing? Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah, I've had website designers who are holding like domains hostage, and they're just like, oh wow, it's in our system, and if they want it out and moved, it's going to cost like hundreds of pounds. And I'm like, I know the process of how to move a domain out of your system into another system. Like, your admin fee is about 25 quid. It's not like 300, 500 pounds to do that, because and I think, what are you gaining from holding this domain? Because it's not your business. Like, you can't do anything with it. And business owners get so scared to trust people because, and I think there's a few things at play. Is like, one, they don't understand the importance of actually owning things like your domain and knowing where it is. Lots of people will say, I don't know where my domain is. And I'm like, but surely you registered the domain. But it's one of those things that it just doesn't seem important to them at the time. It's just kind of like, oh, I'll just quickly do a domain and
Get
I
it
don't
off my
have to
plate.
worry about it. And like, the money just comes out of my account and they don't really know. And I'm like, right, so you're gonna have to go through your emails, you're gonna have to find an invoice, you're gonna have to see like where this money is going, like who are you paying, how much are you paying? And then it's like this whole big rigmarole of, and this is where like it then becomes expensive, because as much as I really want to help people, it's still a lot of my time to try and figure out where your domain is, try to figure out how to get into this domain, how to, do all the things that you needed to do before we've even got into the website to find out what's going on there. So I think it's really important to save you money as a business owner, is to get all your ducks in a row, so to speak, in terms of knowing a domain and everything like that.
Yeah.
I've had people where they've been charged £3,000 a year for website hosting.
Oh my God.
And I said, oh, what are you doing? Like, do you get like a new website every year for this? And they're like,
I
no,
suppose
that's
if you
just
don't know,
website.
you don't know.
And I was just like, and she was like, oh, how much do you charge? And I was like, at the time, I was like, it's £85 a year. And she was like, pardon? And I was like, yeah, that's kind of like industry standard. Like, it's not £3,000. She wasn't getting any like website support. There was no changes being happening. And I was just like, I don't understand how these people are getting away with this. And I can absolutely see why people don't trust business owners. But like you said, when, like us, we've been in business for 10 to 12 years and we've spent our whole time like trying to help people, it does become frustrating when you kind of, and I understand why it's happening, but you kind of tired with the same brush of like, can I trust you? And I do understand it when you've been burnt before, but I think it's just understanding what you need to look for and like the red flags that you need to look for in people.
Yeah, but it's as you say, it's like it's frustrating as a service provider when you feel like you start off by having to justify why you're a good guy.
Yeah.
Why you're a good guy and why you're going to get, work your ass off to,
Yeah.
and do it in an ethical way. Because I feel like there's these people that in the industry, like that's a prime example. I can't even imagine, but like that are working in such an unethical way. But it just means that you're right, there is this serious distrust
Mm.
in online business owners and online service providers. That means that, it also leads to situations that I know both you and I have had where we've potentially been asked to lower our prices, asked to, work for free, or, constantly in this like race to the bottom because we should be charging less because there's this mistrust. I just feel like there's this huge issue in the industry that nobody's talking about, that the trust and the racing to the bottom with the prices, it's really damaging, really damaging.
Yeah, and I think it's there's an element of, like you said, it's the trust. Like, well, I don't want to put that much money into something that I don't know is going to work
Cool.
because I've been burnt before, which I do understand. But equally, if I was to drop my prices for every single person, you know, I've got there. I was thinking about this today, and I was thinking, like, people need to realize that there is a life going on behind the business, behind the social media posts, behind, the discovery calls. We all have families. I've got a child. I've got, I've got to feed her. I've got to put clothes on her. got to keep roof over our head. We're not just because, and I think also as well, it's just because I know website design, or funnels, and all this kind of stuff, does not mean that we are multi-millionaires and we can decide to just, like, you guess, okay, like the fee, I don't charge like £100 to design a website, but I have 10 years worth of experience behind me, and I put everything into it, and I'm there to help people as much as I possibly can. But I can't do that for free, because if I'd done it for free, I wouldn't be here to help other people, because I'd be like, well, I have to go and get a job because no one's paying me. And I think it is like this frustration of the issue with other people, where they have completely ruined the reputation of certain industries. And it just makes it so much harder for those of us who are actually trying to help people, and make it a better place for people to be and to trust and to kind of be in control of their business.
Mm.
And then it's just a constant battle all the time.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's like coupled with the fact that there are newer people coming to the market, and I'm not saying that new people shouldn't come to the market, because that otherwise we'd all be screwed if they
Yeah.
didn't. But it's more that they come to the market and undercut, and then so you kind of sometimes are losing out on business. But then they do a bad job because they don't have the experience to
Yeah.
know, what to do when something goes wrong, or, in my situation, to make the best, guesstimate about which launch approach is going to work. And then it's kind of picking up the pieces, and that then adds to that bad reputation and
Yeah.
creates this, only doesn't, adds to the melting pot, basically.
It does. And I think, like, I've had experiences where, people have worked with me, and, they've been happy, and then they speak to other people, like, it will be somebody local to them. I understand some people would prefer to work with somebody local, which I completely understand, because I have local clients as well who want to work with someone local, they're close by, and they're just like, oh, I'm going to move my website to them. They've said that and I'm not one of those people that is like, no, you can't leave. Like, you've got to stay with me. And I'm just like, okay, that's
Mine.
like, you do what you need to do for your business. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the one to go, no, you can't. But I can literally, I always dread it now, because it always seems to happen. They're like, we're going to move the website, move the hosting. That's fine. So, and then I will get an email about a week later and say, my website's not working. What, like, this isn't, like, it's not working properly, these pages aren't loading, the website's not loading properly, it's broken. And I'm like, because you've got somebody who doesn't understand the hosting side of it, because they are, I really don't, I feel really bad for saying this, but it's kind of like they're just a reseller. They're just selling someone else's shit, and they
Yes.
don't understand what's happening behind the scenes. And they don't know how it works. And they think it's a matter of clicking a few buttons. And it is a matter of clicking some buttons, but you need to click the right buttons. And they're
Yes.
not clicking the right buttons, and they're not doing the proper backups, and they're not understand, they're not getting the full picture. And I've had people's websites go down, their emails have gone down, their business has gone down for a whole week because the person that they've got has been cheaper, but they're just not as experienced, they don't know what they're doing. And I've had these people email me as well, like the people that have taken over, and I said, well, why can't you help me? I said, because it's not my mess. Like, you need to understand that this is like what's happening. And I will always, I mean, I'm always a bit like, my first instinct is like, well, this is your mess, you fix it. But then I'm just like, but then it's the business owner that, is the one that's suffering, and they were still my client, and I still want to help them.
Yeah.
So I, do with what I can, but then I can't do their job for them without paying. And who's going to pay for that? It will again be the business owner, because technically I feel like it should be the person who messed it up that should be paying, because if I messed up something, I would
Yeah.
be like, I'm not charging you for this because this is my mess and I need to fix it. But more often than not, it's the business owner that ends up having to pay my fees to try and fix the mess of someone else.
Mm.
And I find that I do find that really difficult. But at the end of the day, it can take me hours to try and fix a problem like this. And I can't afford to not charge for my time.
No.
And it's one of those situations that I hate doing, but it is a necessary. It's a necessary to do, but it's just that, I think that's me problem. It just does make me feel really uncomfortable having to do it, but I can't. I've got to do it. I've got to live.
You have to. You have to. And I think the difference, if you choose to do something for free because you believe in something, it's aligned with your beliefs or whatever, or it's our mess, we've done something, we choose to do it for free, that's one thing. But I guess being expected to work for free or not charge for our time is a totally different problem.
Yeah,
So,
definitely is.
in that sort of situation, of course, like if you have to charge for your time, because the time spent fixing somebody else's mess, it's time you're not spending working on other clients that are paying you, right?
Exactly. And this is like the thing, it's kind of, I have to make it fair. Like, I do loads of stuff for free. I do loads of stuff that I probably should charge. I get asked all the time, how do I do this? How do I do this? And I'm just like, well, I know the answer. And how am I going to sit there and say, well, you're going to have to charge me for an hour's my time?
Yeah.
For me to, and I'm just like, I'm not about that. I don't like to gatekeep things. Like, if I know something, I will tell somebody. If I feel like it's going to take a long time for me to explain, or it's going to take me, I may as well do it, then sometimes I will have to charge. And even then, sometimes I just do it because I'm just like, it's going to take me all of 2 minutes to do, and it's just quicker for me to do it than it is for me to try to explain it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's that balance between, I've got to keep it fair because I have clients who are paying me to do stuff, and if I keep doing things for free for everyone, it's not fair on the people who are genuinely willing to pay me.
Yeah.
Um, and it's that balance, and it's like this internal guilt of like, I want to do stuff for free and I want to help people, but I've got people who's paying me and I want to keep it fair, and it's not an
Yeah.
easy thing to do. Yeah, business
Oh,
is
the internal battle's real, right? And we sit
yeah,
there and go, we should charge for it. God, I don't know if we will charge for it, but you want to be
yeah.
the good guy.
Yeah, and this is it. I do want to be the good guy because I'm not here to screw people over. Because if I was, I would definitely be a millionaire sat on some faraway yacht, not caring.
Yeah, we'd
And
be
I'm
in a
definitely
sunnier
not.
climate.
No, I'm sat here in, like, it's gone cloudy in Wales, and I would much rather be on a beach in the Maldives right now. But no, I'm still here. And I think that's kind of, maybe one day I'll get to the faraway beach, but it's not going to be through screwing people over, that's for sure.
Oh my God, amazing. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So rather than end it on, screwing people over, doom and gloom stuff, because I know we could talk about stuff for ages.
Yeah.
Maybe what would be useful for the guys listening is if they're sitting there thinking, shit, I don't have a website strategy, or I've never really thought about my website in that sort of way. Are there any kind of tips for what people should be thinking about if they are, getting started with a website?
Yeah. So I would say is, I really don't want to say think about your ideal client because
We all start there.
I've already
Don't do
lost
that
them. They've
then.
already got, right, I'm off, I'm going. But think about who you would like to work with and who who you want to attract to your website, and think about like what it is that they are looking for, because this is the issue that lots of people have with their website, is that they're making their website about them as a business owner, which it should be a reflection of you, but it also needs to be for the people that are using it. So there is that balance between which you have to get right. But think about the people that are using it and think about what it is that they need to hear, what they need to see, and how they like to use things. So, like I said, if you're targeting millennials and Gen X's, then they're going to be the ones that are still using Instagram. They're scrolling TikTok, but they're not necessarily searching on TikTok, but they are on Google and they're looking for things, and they like to know. We're in like that decision making, era of our lives, and just kind of thinking, right, where am I going to invest my money wisely? And it's kind of thinking, what do they need to know? What do they need to see? And make sure that you are actually putting that on your website. I could spout off a load of things like making sure that your website's optimized, do your keyword research and all this kind of stuff, but it means absolutely nothing to anyone. But that's the thing, is put yourselves in the shoes of the people who you want to use your website and who you want to work with, and think about what it is that they need to see, that they need to do, that they want to hear from you, and make sure that you are putting that on your website. And then also think about how people are going to find you. So think about where they're going to be. What social media platforms are they using? Are they clicking? Do they click on your emails? And if they're not, why not? Are you directing people enough on your emails? And it's all like these different tricks and testing, I suppose, of what needs to be done. And as much as I would love to be able to give you like the blueprint to what's going to make your website work, it is kind of like a trial and error to see what works for you, what works for your audience as well. And also make sure that you've got the right audience, because I've learned that the hard way. Not having the right audience is just doesn't matter what you do. You need to make sure that you are attracting the right audience, and that means putting the right things on your website as well. I don't know if that's helpful, to be
Yeah,
honest.
no, that's really helpful. And obviously, if in doubt, they should be working with an expert such as yourself to come up with the right strategy and build on the best platform for them as well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing as well. I think that's also really important, is like when you're deciding on who, if you want to work with someone, and deciding who to work with, look at everything, because not to kind of like shun like tech VAs or anything like that, because they are amazing at what they do. But I have had a lot of people say, oh, a tech VA has done this and they haven't been able to do, they haven't, like, it hasn't worked. Like, they worked on my website, and I'm like, that's because they're working on the platform. They know the platform really, really well, and that is their job. But their job isn't to work on a strategy for your website. You probably haven't paid them to do the strategy, for one.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're not going to be, that's not their area of expertise. So making sure that if you want some like a bigger picture, you are going to have to try and find that specialist in it, rather than like somebody who covers lots of different bases. Tech VAs are great for kind of maintaining and kind of keeping things at a level, but if you need to grow, you need to find an expert at that.
That's such an important point. I'm so glad you said that, because as you can probably imagine, I find in my field, I get a lot of, oh, I've hired a tech VA instead
Yeah.
because of the cost. Whereas that's, to me, as you say, brilliant tech VAs, but you want to make sure that you're coming to an expert or a strategist at the beginning to make sure that when you're, right at the start of it, that you're coming up with a strategy that's going to be effective,
Yeah.
that tech VA can
Yeah,
maintain.
I think there is a place for everybody, when it comes to sort of like the online marketing, online business space. There isn't necessarily like, oh, well, this person is better, or this, a tech VA is better than this, or web designer is better than this. But for what it is that you need to understand what it is that you need, and you need to find the right person for it, and you need to ask the right questions as well, because more often than not, people are not going to tell you, because either they can't do it and they don't want to admit they can't do it, or
Yes.
they just assumed that you as a business owner are going to know that, well, I can't do this. So but you do need to ask the right questions, and make sure that the person that you're hiring can do what it is that you're expecting, so that you're not disappointed when it doesn't happen, because you can't really blame the person that you hired if you didn't ask the right questions then.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Making sure that they've actually got the skill set to be able to help you with what you need. So be that
Yeah,
maintaining a website, or right from inception, coming up with strategy and build, then yeah, need to
yeah,
be asking these difficult questions.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Amazing. Well, look, I know we could talk for absolutely ages about this, that, and the other, but I just want to say a really big thank you, Katrina, for coming on and talking about all things to do with service providers, websites, or everything that we've talked about in between. It's been a really amazing episode. So, yeah, really big thank you to you. It's been lovely to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all. And I'll share your contact details with the guys in the show notes.
Yeah,
For everybody listening, do tune in for our next episode on the Entrepreneur Circus, and have a fabulous week. Thanks, guys. See you later. That's it for today. If something sparked your interest, or you have a story that needs sharing, don't hesitate to get in touch. Details are in the show notes, or just look me up on social media. And before you leave, make sure you're subscribed to be the first in the know when the next episode's out. Until then, remember, this is your circus. So embrace the chaos and keep juggling. See you next time.